If you're thinking about moving to Spokane, you're probably Googling as much as possible all the pros and cons of Spokane to see if this is the right move for you. I would love to give you my honest take as a born and raised Spokaneite, to give you my 10 reasons as to why I would not move here and what you should know before you make that decision. All right, let's get right into the video, but make sure to stick around to the end because I know there's at least one or two in here that you have no idea that should be a concern. The first one I want to talk about is the location. Spokane is actually kind of far from the next major city. People think that we're just a stone's throw from Seattle, but really it's about a 5-hour drive to get to Seattle. And then if you want to go to any other city, Portland is 8 hours, Boise is 8 hours, Salt Lake is like 10 to 12 hours. I can't remember exactly. But if you're somebody that loves having access to all the major musical tours, you want the amenities of a big city, then you just want to make sure that you consider the distance that you're going to have to drive to get those. Spokane does get a lot of music. A lot of tours do come through here, but especially if you're into more modern music today, like T Swift's not coming to Spokane most likely until she's on her reunion tour in 20 years from now. So we definitely get more of the 80s rock reunion tours right now. The big bands tend to play at the Gorge, it's about 3 hours away. They're playing in Seattle. They're actually going over to Missoula, Montana, which is 3 hours away because they have an amazing music venue over there that's open in the summertime. So location is just one thing to consider if you're looking for something that is in close proximity to other cities. But just know if you are looking for some of those big city amenities, you are going to have to drive quite a ways to get there. Spokane has had an increasing crime issue over the last decade or even longer, really. The Spokane Police Department released their data report in June of 2022, like their year to date, and property crime has increased 30% just over the last year alone. And in some neighborhoods, specifically right downtown, there was an increase of 200% in property crime. So the crime's not everywhere. It's definitely contained to certain locations. I've lived here a long time and have very rarely seen or been had any issue with property crime and stuff. So you just kind of have to know where to be at what times. But I would say 90% of Spokane is having very little problems, and it is really concentrated into certain locations. So the next issue, some would argue, is in direct correlation with the previous one, but is our rise in homelessness. Again, this is affecting our downtown core much more than it's affecting anywhere else, but there definitely has been more panhandling further away from the downtown core than I feel like I've seen over the last handful of years. Our biggest issue and most obvious issue here in Spokane is what's called Camp Hope. Camp Hope is a large homeless camp that's right off of the freeway, off the Freya exit, and it's a very dividing and challenging issue here in Spokane. And it's just having its 1-year anniversary actually right now, and we still have not come to a conclusion on how to resolve the issue. It started when there was a protest outside of City Hall last winter when it was an extreme lack of low barrier housing. Those people were then moved to the current site of Camp Hope, which was on land owned by the Department of Transportation. And by moving them there, it opened up more government funding to try and solve the issue, but obviously things have gone really slow and people are still living there. The population has been as high as I believe 500 people living there. But basically there's just a big divide between needing to help the people that live there and get them into the proper situation, but also people arguing that it's just a nuisance and they feel like it's ruining that neighborhood and all that kind of stuff. I think the majority of people right in the middle would love to help these people and get them to where they need to be, but not have that as the billboard of Spokane because it is very visual coming in off of the freeway. And if you think that divide sounds like a big deal, just wait until the last reason because it is shocking. I don't think most people know that this is going on right now. But moving on to number 4 is taxes. Taxes are a big conversation here in Spokane because people love to move to Washington because we have no income tax. We're actually only one of 8 states in the country to not have any income tax, but we have very high sales tax. We're at an 8.9% sales tax. So anybody moving here from a non-sales tax state like Oregon or Montana, it's a big pill to swallow when you start going out shopping or dining out and stuff, and you're just getting hit with a bill that's almost 10% more than what everything said on the menu. I would say for high net worth individuals moving here, maybe you're from California, where it has the highest income tax in the country, then it is 100% worth it. But if you are middle class, somebody that's budgeting, and you're maybe moving from a state that has some income tax, it's definitely something to consider because your cost of living might go up by 9% based off of the things that you purchase. So if you're really nerdy and want to run the numbers, just factor in 9% on all retail items that you purchase and see if it fits in your budget. And talk about budgeting. If you're moving here from somewhere that doesn't have all 4 seasons, you're going to have to get a new wardrobe. You're probably going to have about 3 different wardrobes. That's what I feel like I have in my closet. 1 for the summer, 1 for the winter, and 1 for the spring/fall, because we have drastic weather changes here in Spokane. Right now it's December 5th, and we've already had snow on the ground for well over 2 to 3 weeks. We do get all 4 seasons, but most often fall and spring feel very short. This year summer was pushing into October, where it was still 80 degrees in early October, and then by the beginning of November we already had snow on the ground. It was below 30 degrees, and so fall just barely happened. So if you are moving here, just be prepared to adjust your driving. You need snow tires. No, you don't need chains. I feel like everybody feels like they need chains, but just get some traction tires. Maybe take a class on winter driving, because I feel like every year drivers in Spokane are getting a little bit worse. There's more car accidents, really slow drivers when they don't necessarily need to be. So just something to consider. If you are moving here from a place that you haven't driven in snow a lot, I would recommend just taking a class or something, just so that you don't stick out like a sore thumb when you're driving down the road. And something that comes with our weather is my 6th reason, maybe not to move here, is that seasonal depression is totally a thing. I don't think most people admit that they have it, but Spokane only sees 171 sunny days a year on average. That is less than half. And our winters commonly last from November till March, even sometimes April. And so it's a long period of time to go with gray skies, cold weather, and people just start to lack motivation. That lack of energy makes it really hard to get out of the bed sometimes, and you have to really work to get to the gym in the morning, keep your morning routine, because a lot of times it's getting dark at 3 p.m. So you could be getting to work when it's dark and getting home when it's dark. And if you don't have a big window, or you spend time outside when you're at work, you might not see the sun at all for who knows how long, or at least until the weekend when you can get outside. Next reason not to move here is because road construction just sucks in Spokane. When you have a lot of snow that sticks around, people with traction tires, giant snow plows driving all over Spokane, the roads just get kind of trashed. And I can't remember a summer in my 27 years of existence in Spokane where there hasn't been multiple arterials shut down completely for multiple blocks, completely shutting off traffic, making it very challenging to get through downtown and to the South Hill. And you might just think, I just won't drive my car, I'll just take public transportation, I'll get 1 car off the road. Well, that would be a great idea if our public transportation was really good. It's not bad public transportation, it's just okay public transportation. Having a car here is pretty vital. Like, there is a bus system, but there's no train or anything like that. And not a lot of people like to use the bus system. They're making a lot of improvements. They're adding more routes, making the stops nicer and safer. But for right now, there's really not a large desire for most people to use the public transportation system unless they absolutely have to. But generally, it's hard to find a neighborhood where everything is within walking distance. There's most of the time you're going to need to drive to something. So I would say that having a car in Spokane is absolutely vital. I know for me, as my job driving around all the time, I 100% need a car, and I have a lot of people that come and move to Spokane or come and visit to look, and they realize it is much more spread out than they imagined. And even if we take a look at this map right here, just to prove my point, this shows the walkability level of Spokane, and it doesn't look good. So that's all I have to say on that one. All right, so coming up on our last 2, and make sure to stick around for the last one because I think it is really interesting and not a lot of people know about it. But number 9 is our lack of diversity. Spokane is 85% Caucasian. Now, according to bestneighborhoods.com, apparently we don't score that low in comparison to the rest of the country. But again, looking at this map right here, you can just see that is just blue. And so I guess one good thing that comes out of this is that you don't see a concentration of the other races in Spokane. So a large segregation or divide is not prevalent when you look at the data on the map. So I think that's a pro to this, that we're not just pushing people, certain classes into certain areas and things like that. In terms of if you're coming here from California or something like that, there's cities where there's extreme diversity. There's just not a ton. That just kind of is what it is when it comes to living in the inland Northwest. All right, so for our final reason not to move to Spokane is our Great Divide. Now, this is not just a Spokane issue, but something to note is that we're the second largest city in Washington state and the largest city east of the Cascade Mountains. Obviously, the west side of the state is much more concentrated with cities that have a high population, and all of those cities add up to about 80% of the population living on the west side of the Cascade Mountains, just kind of this little sliver on the other side of the mountains. So for the majority of Washington state, only about 20% of the population lives there, and so it's about 1.6 million versus about 5 million people. Generally speaking, the west side of the state tends to be much more democratic and liberal, and the east side of the state tends to be more conservative and Republican. And for the longest time, actually dating back to 1861, when Washington state was first being founded and discovered, there has been a divide in where the state line should be, if there should be a 51st state, and that argument is still going on today. So there is a large movement to divide Washington at the Cascade Mountains, and eastern Washington would become the 51st state called Liberty. So I would say that Spokane kind of falls right in the middle. If you look at this map right here, politically, Spokane County is very right in the middle. We're very purple as a county, and so we have a lot of good conversations, I'll say. A lot of people that are far one way and far the other way, and so in terms of governing our own city and our own county, it can be a challenge just because there's a lot of different opinions and not a large majority on one side. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you are making a move to Washington, I am a realtor here in Spokane. I would love to help you make that move. I specialize in relocation buyers just like yourself and would love to give you any information that you need. Check out the link down in the description below. Let me know what you're looking for when you're moving, and I will reach out to you as soon as possible. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.